is plenty of blame to go around in this situation. I still would maintain that it is different to, for example, the Emiratis supplying weaponry to Hamedi, who has a proven track record of being a war criminal. He is responsible for the atrocities in Darfur. So it is a different kind of blame to go around, but certainly plenty of guilty players here. And yes, I think at the end of the day, the failure of everybody involved here is to listen to what the Sudanese themselves are saying. The neighborhood resistance committees, which are Sudanese civil society, largely youth-driven, that were really the backbone of the revolution that overthrew this 30-year dictatorship of Omar al-Bashir, they are the ones that we should be listening to. That if we're really serious about democracy, then what they are calling for is what needs to be supported. And that is a long, hard, and messy road. And that's why the tendency of external actors is to look at these committees and say what they're asking for is unrealistic and they need to be more pragmatic. But to be honest, at this point, whatever everybody else has been pushing for hasn't worked. And so maybe it is time to listen to what the Sudanese themselves are saying.
A faction of the coalition, the pro-democracy coalition, was saying we're not going to sign on to this framework agreement because it includes Hemedi and al-Burhan. Why should we?
So this is what's really tricky. All of us on the outside and media, and I could include myself in this, love the success story of overthrowing a dictatorship. And it was an incredible success story in 2019. But the story never stops there. Even though our attention in the media tends to wane after that, when you have a history of 30 years of dictatorship that you're having to overcome, the people that benefited from that dictatorship, they don't just disappear overnight. But you also can't, get them all out of the country. So you have to figure out a way to deal with them. So there is always going to be this really messy transition period. And the challenge is to keep as much attention on the country and as much resources and investment in the country in that transition period as you had at that sort of moment of celebration and victory. And I think that's where we fell down. So it was never going to be the case that you could move from Omar al-Bashir in charge to having full civilian rule overnight,
Because they had the weapons?
because they had the weapons, right? You can't sort of change that fact. You would love to just sort of magic wand it away, and that's not the reality that you're dealing with. But that then means you have to be very careful about managing that transition. And certainly when Burhan and Hamedi really showed their true colors with the 2021 coup that ousted the civilian parts of that transitional government, that was the time to say, you've shown your colors and you can't be part of this going forward.